described in medical literature for quite some time.
Okay, and I forgot to hit the record button, so I just hit it now. So just to recap, we're talking with Diane Sagen and Dr. Hermanowicz. He's a neurologist. Diane is a caregiver to her husband who has Parkinson's and a little bit of dementia. And we're talking about psychosis, hallucinations, and delusions, and all of the things that are associated with Parkinson's psychosis, which is not very well known by the medical community or even by patients. So, Diane, let me ask you, when was your husband, Jay, diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and when did he develop Parkinson's disease psychosis? We're not hearing you. What happened to, we're just being plagued by technical difficulties here. We had a test show and everything just went perfect. And now we can't hear. We lost our engineer. And I think that's how we were getting to talk to you. So, Doctor, we can hear you, right? Oh, wait a minute. Here he is now. Sometimes, the powers that be in the universe just are disruptive. I can certainly see that in the political process, and it's certainly happening on this show. It's our host, our co-host Adrienne. So, Doctor, let's get back to you. What are typical hallucinations and delusions that people living with Parkinson's disease psychosis often report? Hi, Adrienne.
Hi. Can you hear me on the microphone?
We can hear you okay. You're one of the few people that we can hear.
Okay.
So, Doctor, you heard the question?
I did. Okay. People will have most often visual hallucinations. They will see people in their home or outside their home. They may see animals or children or insects on the floor. Wow. And they may initially be relatively benign, not frightening or threatening, but as time goes by, they tend to evolve and become frightening or disturbing to the patient and ultimately to their spouse and caregiver as well. Sometimes people have other forms of hallucinations, which could be auditory. I've had patients who will hear music playing, for example, or hear voices speaking to them, although that's not so common. They will sometimes have tactile hallucinations where they feel they're being touched, sometimes inappropriately so. They may have olfactory hallucinations where they smell things that are not in fact present. Burning wood, burning rubber, or some foul smell typically.
Wow. When exactly in the medical community do they come to the realization that all of this is related to Parkinson's and not, for example, dementia? Because these almost sound like dementia symptoms, don't they?
Well, they're not clearly dementia symptoms, and people who have Parkinson's disease psychosis, these symptoms, do not necessarily have themselves dementia. So it was blamed for a long time on the medications. These were thought to be a side effect of the medications used to treat Parkinson's disease, which in fact do bring these things out more. But it seems to be not just the medications, but rather the substrate, the underlying disease process itself, that makes it possible for these to occur. Then with the medications, they're brought out all the more.
Wow. So I can only imagine what challenges caregivers face if their loved ones develop Parkinson's disease psychosis, especially if they think they only have Parkinson's and, the shaking and all the other known symptoms of Parkinson's. What are basically the reactions of caregivers who go through this? How long do they tolerate this kind of behavior before they finally get the doctor involved?
Well, that's a great question, because if they're not aware that this could be part of the disease process, this could really be alarming and frightening to people. So having a discussion with patients and their spouse, their caregiver, that this could occur, I think it goes a long way in reducing the fear or anxiety when these things do pop up.
Uh-huh.
In fact, it's been published that the Parkinson's psychosis is most likely the number one reason that people have to leave their home and receive care in a skilled nursing facility, nursing home, for example. It's not the tremor, it's not the falls. It's not the sometimes problems with maintaining urine continence and so forth. It's the psychosis that becomes really difficult to manage at home.
Sure, because now we're talking mental illness, right?
Well, it's not really the same as mental illness. It's not a primary psychiatric diagnosis, such as bipolar disorder. It is part of Parkinson's disease, and it is, to an extent, brought out all the more by the medications that I prescribe or other neurologists prescribe to treat the motor problems, the slowness, the stiffness, maybe the tremor.
Yeah.
So it becomes a balancing act. You want to make people more mobile, but you don't want to be aggravating these psychosis type symptoms, which are way more troubling to people than the motor symptoms are.
Okay. Doctor, see if you can turn your computer volume down a little more. And Adrienne, just want to introduce Adrienne Gruberg, founder of the Caregiver space.
Hi.
Her platform, she's got over, I don't even know if you know this, Adrienne, but your number has gone up from 120,000 to 140,000, or maybe even higher.
142 and change.
Well, congratulations to that. You're doing something right over there.
Yeah.
So do you have anything to ask the doctor? What you've heard so far?
I've sort of just settled in and I'm listening. This is not my area of expertise, so I'll listen until I have something to contribute.
Diane, do we have your sound back? Can we hear you? Blade, see what you can do with Diane. She's on the phone, so we should be able to hear her. Anyway, this would be a great time to take a break. So why don't we just take a break? We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go away, and we'll try to figure out some of this technical stuff.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we hear you. We don't hear the commercial, Blade.
Do you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
You're hearing me without the microphone.
Apparently. I wish Diane had that problem. So while the commercial is running, Diane, why don't you... Oh, who's that? Blade? Why don't you... So you don't have anything plugged into your computer, do you, Diane? Can you hear us, Diane? Poor Diane. No, her headphones didn't work before. Can you hear us, Diane? Diane, are you there? Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Well, Doctor, you'll have to talk for Diane. You know her pretty well. I'm sure you know what she would say if I asked her these questions. Lade, let us know when the commercial's over. Yeah, I apologize, Doctor. We usually do not have these kind of problems. We just started recently doing the video podcasts in addition to the simulcast on the radio show. And it has its problems that it's in beta format, and we're tolerating them because the video is so much better. We've opened up a whole new audience on Blab, and so we just hate to give up so soon. We're just trying to make it work. But at least we still have the audio, and that's coming out pretty good. But let me see if Blade is finished here. We've got to be finished here. Let's see what he's saying. Commercial is over. Okay. So, Doctor, welcome back. And we have Adrienne Gruberg with us. Welcome, Adrienne. And let me ask you, Doctor, what tips can you suggest to caregivers to help them manage their loved one's Parkinson's disease, psychosis, day-to-day and longer term? Now, you mentioned that a lot of times they've got to start thinking seriously about a facility because staying at home is no longer an option when they're portraying these symptoms that are not mental illness, but certainly, imitate mental illness symptoms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Yes.
okay? I will. So I think the procedure should be not to be thinking about a facility, but talking to your neurologist, hopefully a neurologist who has expertise in movement disorders and Parkinson's disease, about how these things can be addressed. So the medication should be examined to see if there are superfluous medications that could be eliminated. If that's not the case, then we sometimes add medication to try to reduce the psychosis type symptoms.
So what type of medications are now available? This cutting edge stuff just recently?
This is cutting edge stuff. So there are two medications that have been used that are antipsychotic medications, quetiapine, also known as Seroquel, and clozapine, also known as Clozaril. Of those two, only clozapine has really been established in clinical studies to be effective for this problem. People don't use it very much because it comes with some baggage. It requires a weekly blood test for 6 months, and then every 2 weeks after that. And there are other potential side effects associated with the medication. So it does work. It's not specifically approved by the FDA for this use, but it does work. It's just that it's a big nuisance for both the patient, their spouse, and the physician as well to use this medication. There is another medication called pimavanserin, which has been presented to the FDA. I've been involved in their clinical trials, specifically developed to address psychosis symptoms in Parkinson's disease. It was submitted to the FDA last September. I anticipate we'll know very soon, in May or June, whether this medication is going to be approved specifically for Parkinson's disease psychosis.
So they're treating psychosis symptoms differently than they are with other people who maybe have mental illnesses and also have psychosis, or is it basically the same kind of drug, the same kind of strategy to try to combat it?
So the drugs that are used right now that are not approved by the FDA for this indication were developed to treat schizophrenia, for example, and they are still sometimes used for that. But their side effect profile is unattractive. They carry other risks that give one pause in terms of discussing these in use with our patients with Parkinson's disease. And this other medication, pimavanserin, is not of the same type exactly. It's was developed specifically to address these psychosis symptoms in Parkinson's disease and not for other psychoses such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So what do you think some of the challenges that Diane has been going through since she has discovered that her husband has this Parkinson's psychosis? What have you observed?
Well, she, like many other caregivers or spouses, have had to struggle with spouse, for example, not recognizing their wife to be their wife. Where's my wife? Or having the sense that other people are in the home that are threatening or stealing their money or intending to do harm. People who may get their days and nights turned upside down and be awake at night and drowsy or dozing during the day. This just wreaks havoc on the home life for the caregiver. It makes it almost impossible for people to be managed at home. Hence, people being placed in skilled nursing facilities when they're having this problem. Now, Diane's husband has stayed at home. I think Diane would say it's not been easy for either one of them, but she has managed to keep him at home with medication use. Now,
we know probably the most famous person who has Parkinson's is that actor who was in
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. What kind of Parkinson's does he have and his symptoms? And God forbid, would this ever happen to him? Is he at risk?
Well, it could. And he's unusual in that I know him. I've encountered him at his foundation meeting in New York, but I don't know him personally. I've just seen him in New York. Psychosis symptoms can occur to anybody who has Parkinson's disease, but the risks for having it becoming a problem are older age, longer duration of Parkinson's disease, and also associated cognitive impairment or dementia. People who have a specific sleep disorder called REM behavioral disorder, where they act out their dreams, where they talk or move in their dreams, also seem to be at increased risk for developing this at some point during the course of Parkinson's disease. But we've known from previous studies that if you follow people with Parkinson's disease for 20 years, those who are still surviving, about 75% of them will have evidence of hallucination.
And you know, Michael J. Fox was certainly young when he came down with Parkinson's. Is that unusual?
It is unusual. I believe he was 30 when he was ultimately diagnosed. About 5 to 10% of cases of people with Parkinson's are diagnosed under the age of 50. The average age of diagnosis is 60. It sounds younger all the time, right? But it's a mature person's diagnosis. It's not an elderly person's diagnosis.
Yeah. So when was Jay exactly? How old was Jay when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's? Diane's husband?
She's not.
I can hear you, Diane.
Pardon? Can you hear me?
I can.
Doctor, can you hear me? Okay. I was
yes,
asking how old was Jay, her husband, when he was first diagnosed with Parkinson's? Do you know?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I think Diane is, I can hear her voice. Apparently you cannot. But I think Jay was in his early 70s when he was diagnosed. No, I'm sorry.
So you can hear her voice?
In his 60s when he was diagnosed. Yes.
Well, I'll ask her questions through you then. This question is for Diane. Can she describe some of the hallucinations and delusions that he would have and that he would see? And that you can communicate to us? We're just in the dark ages here with this technology.
So she says he was seeing initially black cats and groups of people in the living room.
I guess that freaked her out. So how long did she go getting freaked out like this before she decided to call you?
So she says she brought it up at the next appointment that we had.
And did you know immediately what it was, or did you have to do some tests, figure it out? Yeah.
I knew
so
what it was.
Is this your specialty? Okay. How many specialties do neurologists typically have? I just thought a neurologist was a neurologist.
No, there are actually subspecialists within neurology. So my subspecialty interest is in movement disorders. There are people who specialize in stroke and epilepsy and multiple sclerosis. So there are several subspecialties within neurology.
Jay is still with Diane, or is he in a facility?
He is.
So what
home.
type of challenges today is Diane facing with Jay at home?
Yeah, so she's going to comment, and then I'll forward it to you. So let me just pause there. So she says that around 4 o'clock he starts becoming disoriented and confused, and believes that there are groups of people in their home, which he finds both frightening and frustrating that he's not able to communicate with them. Now, the interesting thing about these hallucinations of people is that they never talk. People speak to them, but the hallucinations never speak back.
Does this bear any resemblance to sundowning?
It is this, I think, the same phenomenon that these things tend to emerge more in the late afternoon, evening, nighttime hours. So it does have some correlation to emergence with time of day, just as sundowners. I think it's a very similar effect, maybe not identical as the confusion or agitation that occurs in people who have underlying cognitive impairment, have this so-called sundowning phenomenon.
She's still talking, I assume. Okay.
Oh.
No, she's not.
What do you think caregivers need to know about Parkinson's disease psychosis in terms of managing it day to day and just getting through each day, getting through each week, getting through each month, and the treatments? Has she been? Well, I'll save that question till you answer this one. Like a day-to-day strategy.
I think what they need to know is that this is a fairly common phenomenon with varying degrees of severity. But once present, it doesn't go away. It tends to persist. And as time goes by, it becomes more troubling to people. They should know that there is some help that can be provided for this problem, assuming that they get in contact with a neurologist who's familiar with the problem and understands how to treat it. There is a method of treating it, as I mentioned
make sure there aren't unnecessary medications that may be provoking, or using
antipsychotic medications that are already available to address this. Or if this medication, pimavanserin, is ultimately approved, which I expect it will be. I can't predict what the FDA will do. I anticipate at some point it will be approved, but there at least will then be a medication specifically for this problem. So I think the first step is that people become educated that this is a common feature of Parkinson's disease. It can be the #1 most troubling problem associated with Parkinson's disease. But once recognized and dealt with, it can be improved.
Well, I know you're busy. In the last few minutes of the show, what pearls of wisdom can you leave our caregivers and those who are caring for the Parkinsons? Certainly, I would suggest that you're going to tell them to go look into some new medications that are on the market today.
Well, I would say first, don't despair. You are not alone. People sometimes feel that this is a problem unique to them, and it certainly is not. I would also say make sure that you communicate these issues with your treating physician, presumably a neurologist, but not necessarily. And if they're not familiar with the problem or how to deal with it, ask them who they might refer you to deal with this kind of problem, and initiate therapy. I think waiting to see that if it goes away or gets better is not really a good option, because we know there have been studies published already following people with this problem over time that it does not go away. Sure. And if anything, it's going to become more troubling. I'm not saying it needs to be jumped on right away with medication, but it should be at least on the list of things to discuss with the physician when you see them regarding Parkinson's disease. And at some point,
do we know what causes Parkinson's? Anything we can do to prevent it?
Parkinson's disease itself? Actually, no. It's even though there are 1 million people in the United States with Parkinson's disease and expected to be 2 million people by the year 2030, we don't know yet what causes it. We know a lot about it. There's a lot more being learned all the time about Parkinson's disease, but we don't yet know the underlying cause. It does not typically run in families. There have been studies about are there things in the environment that may be increasing risk for getting Parkinson's disease, and there has been some positive result in that regard. But most people that get Parkinson's disease didn't work in the fields of Central California harvesting fruits and vegetables. They weren't exposed to pesticides and herbicides and that sort of thing. We don't really know yet what is the cause.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on. We're going to try to get Diane to call back in because it seems like we can only get one phone call at a time. So thank you so much for taking your time to join us, and we appreciate it. And we're going to have you back another time when we figure out this technical difficulty stuff. Tell Diane to call in again and to log in again, and we'll try to get some more information out of her. Thank you again. All right.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
And Blade, I'll have you try to come on again, and we'll try to get her on again, because if we could hear the doctor, I'm sure we'll be able to hear Diane. Adrienne,
Yes.
What did you learn? You know anyone with Parkinson's?
Muhammad Ali.
I'm here.
There's
Oh,
Diane.
good.
Oh, you
Hi.
can hear me now. Oh.
Yes, but we can't see you.
Yeah, if you go on, if you go on your computer, we'll be able to see you, and just turn your volume down so there's no feedback. But yeah, Muhammad Ali does have Parkinson's, doesn't he? So, and the only people I know are the ones, you see the tremors, or like Michael J. Fox. I never heard of anything like this before. It's pretty frightening.
Well, I wondered if it ever presented itself before and then came up with a Parkinson's diagnosis.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? So, Diane,
Yeah.
I asked the doctor this, but when was your husband Jay diagnosed? How old was he, and how long did you wait before you really decided to seek more medical care?
Yeah, he was
Yeah, I think
I'm going to turn my volume down.
about-
It was about, hear me?
down. He was about.
Somebody
Hear
needs
me?
to turn something
No.
down.
Yeah.
How about,
Well,
how about
my-
you?
How about now?
Mike.
Put your hand over the receiver. Maybe
How
your
about
computer's
now?
working now.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me through it?
Computer's working.
Okay.
Put it on mute. Let's see if that works.
Where's mute?
Your phone.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Now it's working.
Okay, he was about 68 or 69, and I noticed he had a tremor in his hand. I'm sure I don't remember specifically, but we probably went to his general practitioner, who referred us to a neurologist. We didn't see Dr. Hermanowicz right at first, but somebody else, and then switched to Hermanowicz. And
Was he recommended by your neurologist, or
I had a
found
friend
him on your own?
whose husband had seen him. So
Same kind of symptoms? Same kind of symptoms of psychosis?
Yes. And he had been diagnosed with early Parkinson's, which is a whole different ballgame in a way. So it was about a year or two after he was diagnosed before he began having the the psychosis symptoms.
Yeah. So this must have been really, really extra hard on you. I mean, Adrienne, do you know anyone who has these psychosis, Parkinson's symptoms?
No.
Wow. So out of 140,000 people, you haven't come across
I don't
them.
know them all personally. I wish I did.
So they must be very small.
Well, people don't always talk about themselves when they post on the site or on Facebook. They look to see what other people are saying about their problems. So I'm more of the bereavement aftercare person than and cancer person.
So how are you doing as a caregiver, Diane? I mean, from how long have you been doing this?
Well, since a long time, since he was diagnosed. I've had to cut my practice down a little bit. And
tell Adrienne what you did beforehand.
Yes, please.
She missed that.
For a long time, I was a counselor, therapist at a domestic violence shelter, and I also have a private practice. I'm a marriage family therapist. So, now my practice is small, and I spend most of my days caring for Jay. But it's really important. I'm sure everybody knows it's so important to take care of yourself. And so I do try to schedule time away out of the house. I'm in a couple of support groups.
That's good.
And an online support group, which is really great. So, I cope I do a lot of reading and educating myself. I take yoga. There's just lots of ways. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. You're doing all the right things. It's like you're doing all the stuff we tell people to do. How did you get so smart and wise?
You get curious and you just read everything you can on the subject, and you got to do that.
Did you have to burn out first? Was there a period of time that you didn't do all of that and you were just like, they had to scrape you up off the floor?
That's sort of cyclic, that goes on all the time. I have my periods of being scraped up off the floor, but I have a good spiritual life, which really makes a big difference. I have friends and a daughter who's really supportive. I can text her all the time. Yeah, so I do all those things, but it's still hard. It's still, you have your breakdown points. Yeah.
Which is only natural.
Of course, yeah. And I have a good therapist who actually did her thesis on caregivers and caregiver burnout. So, I have kind of the best person.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we got our echo back.
Really?
I can hear it anyway. Yeah. Well, let's take another break, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
One arm, one leg, 100 words. Overcoming unbelievable hardships is a touching story about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resembled that of both a Martha Stewart and Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on her right side. She met her husband Dave 21 years earlier. They had a wonderful fairy tale storybook-like courtship that soon culminated in their marriage. Charlene had just come out of a marriage where after 10 years, she received 2 black eyes and a broken nose by her former husband when he came home high on speed. Charlene believed in no second chances of any kind for abuse, so she left. Finding herself all alone in the world with her 5 and 10-year-old daughters, Cynthia Lorraine and Deborah Lynn, she started raising them by herself for the next 2 years. Then fate brought them all together. After falling in love with Charlene, Cindy, and Debbie, their love then produced Rebecca. They all had a wonderful, normal life for the next 20 years. But today, things are very different for everyone. One arm, one leg, 100 words. Overcoming unbelievable hardships is the amazing story of a woman's fight to survive all that life had thrown her way. Everyone who knows Charlene is thoroughly amazed at how she lives day by day, month by month, year by year, and with a smile on her face and hope in her heart that everything is going to be okay. Her faith in God is her foundation in this hope that everything happens for a reason, and what doesn't kill her will make her stronger. She inspires everyone that meets her. Best-selling author Lynn Barrington says, "If you think you have it bad, read this book. This is a beautiful, genuine story from the heart. It is inspiring and easy to read. When you finish this book, you'll be able to look at your concerns in a new light." 9-time Grammy and Dove Award recipient, the godfather of contemporary gospel music, Andre Crouch, says, Charlene just won't let the promises of God go, and she has not let her circumstances get in the way of her faith. She's not just a survivor, she's more than a conqueror. As the Bible states, you will be encouraged by her testimony, regardless of what you're going through. Order your copy today from the author's website, onearm1leg100words.com. And Dave and Charlene will personally autograph your copy. Enjoy.
Diane Sagen. Right? What a memory, huh? Is this guy sharp or what? Caregiver to her husband with Parkinson's, psychosis. And I wanted to ask you, Diane, how did this affect your relationship? How long have you been married
now? 52 years.
Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
How many years ago was he diagnosed?
7, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been married 40-something years. And
right.
How did this affect your relationship? And what's the status of it now? Is it like gone?
Oh, no. We have a good relationship. That's the thing I think people don't understand, that with this psychosis, he's still himself. You know, he's really still himself, not like Alzheimer's where, you know, they're almost gone. He's still there. You know, he's a little difficult and has crazy ideas and sees things, but he's still Jay. You know, we still can talk and laugh, and you know, we both have always had a good sense of humor with each other.
So what percentage of the time is he quote unquote normal, and what percentage of the time is he kind of difficult?
Yeah, I'd say 60-40, 40 difficult. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Yeah, it is.
Is he a danger to either you or himself when he's in that state?
No, not at all. I mean, he can get really angry, but stops. So that's good. You know, we both can get really angry.
Yeah, no, I just was concerned because I know with some dementia patients, they will get physical.
Yeah. Fortunately, that's not true. Yeah,
I'm glad.
It would be horrible.
Sandra apparently is giving care to someone who's listening in. She has a question. Her question is,
she's being cared for.
Oh,
let me see. As someone that has needed care for many years, my caregiver, my mom, you're right, is bitter towards me. How can I show her my gratitude and let her know she didn't have to help and I owe it all to her? This is a great question for you, Adrienne, and then maybe Diane can throw in her 2 cents as well. But yeah, sometimes caregivers aren't exactly at their best, are they?
No, it's
a rough job.
It's a rough job, and it's very easy for the person to get angry at the patient, especially after long illnesses. But I've always found that the more you can keep the channel of communication open on any level, the better it'll be. I don't know if Sanderson has just tried to say, Mom, look, we have to have a talk. You have to understand something. I really appreciate you and everything you've done for me. Sincerity and honesty generally will out.
Mm-hmm.
It helps.
Yeah.
But keeping that channel of communication going all the time and letting her mother know that, look, I know how frustrated this must make you. I know how you must feel, but I so appreciate it. It's all you can do is talk.
Yeah, and there's another thing going on too, the mother-daughter thing, and that's a biggie.
Yes,
I know you have had issues. Every daughter has issues with their mother. And Sandra, if you want to call in, you can. There's a space open now. But so it's like a double whammy. Caregiver, bad, and mother-daughter, potentially bad. So maybe you want to just share a couple of minutes of your relationship with your mother at its worst, Adrienne.
Me? No, my mother wasn't taking care of me, though. I was taking care of my mother.
Yeah, so just multiply times 10 if she's also taking care of you, right? But it's usually a two-way street, whether it's the caregiver.
My mother, I watched my mother take care of her mother as well.
Uh-huh.
So it was something that was expected. When my mother was a caregiver, parents were still moving in with their children when they needed care. That was the common thing. Yeah. Children didn't live halfway across the country or halfway around the world from their parents. They sort of stayed near home. That's not the way it is anymore. And
yeah. So
the profile of a caregiver has changed so drastically since then. My mother was in Florida. I was up here. She was the one that moved away.
Yeah.
So I was a long distance caregiver, but spent at least a week out of every month in Florida after my father died.
Yeah.
For 3 years.
So she's kind of saying, I don't know if you're reading this as well. She's tried many times. It seems the relationship is too far gone. She tells her she loves her every day. So, some things are just, I don't know, unsalvageable, and don't feel guilty about it.
It's true. I mean, her mother isn't ceasing to do the stuff that she's doing, but
all right.
I can't, except addressing the issue as it's happening. I don't know. Like, why are you so angry with me right now?
Yeah.
Talk about it. Let her ask her mother to talk about what she's feeling.
Yeah. Any reflections on that, Diane?
I think that's a good idea. To really approach it in a sort of different way. I mean, her mother probably just has heard I love you," but to switch it up, yeah, that's great. I'd like to just add that we kind of, a lot of times in the evening, get into it. I mean, I'll be trying to tell Jay that something isn't true, and he'll get angry, but we always make a point of apologizing to each other and, saying I love you and a good night kiss, and it really makes a big difference. So just to make amends at the end of the day helps.
Yeah. So can you relate to any of that? I mean, has this Parkinson's affected negatively your relationship with your husband, or you don't go there?
No, I don't think so. I don't let it slide me into, it's what it is. And
you sound very evolved.
Very what?
Evolved.
Thank you. I work on it.
Yeah, it does take work.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's not all, I mean, I make it sound wonderful, but we have our moments. We have horrible moments.
Yeah, well, don't we all?
When 3 weeks before my husband died of cancer, lung cancer, he started to have dementia episodes. And he started seeing cats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he imagined that there were, we have a large space, and he imagined that there were Vietnamese people in the front of the house with cats, and I would have to go through the house opening and closing the doors so that he knew that I was telling him the truth when I told him that there was nobody there. It's safe. But there were all of these victim things. There were spacemen outside, and they were really good delusions when he had them. It scared me because it came out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you talk to him about them? I mean, were you just?
Well, the first time it happened, I took him to the hospital.
Oh. And
they let me know that was part of what was going on, was that the cancer was spreading from his lung to his spine, to his brain, and that the delusions would become more and more regular. So I didn't know that dementia was part of the cancer. Had he pulled through the episode that put him in the hospital the last time, he would have been taken to a facility because he was a danger to himself. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And probably to me.
Mm-hmm.
But, I never thought that he would hurt me, but the doctors did.
Mm-hmm. Was he mobile? I mean, could he walk?
Yes, totally.
Uh-huh.
Except for the pole that he was hooked up to, yes.
So give us a typical day-by-day scenario for you, Diane. What's a typical day for you and your husband, and the challenges that you face with the Parkinson's psychosis?
Hold on. Stop. That's his pill alarm.
Well, don't forget that.
No, I'll do as soon as we're done. Yeah, typical day, we try to sleep in as long as possible. He has a caregiver, a hospice person coming Monday, Wednesday, and Friday who gets him up and gives him a shower.
Well, good, you got help.
Yeah. Does that? It's suggested hospice, and boy, are they helpful. Yeah, so he's got that, and then a nurse comes 3 days a week and checks his vitals. And if I'm home, there's somebody.
Sarah.
Hi.
If I make this quick, if I'm home, I cook breakfast, I bring it up to him. Unfortunately, our bedroom is upstairs, so I bring him breakfast and make sure he gets that down. And then later I'll do lunch and later dinner. So in between, he's watching TV mostly. Sometimes he'll have visitors, but he's eating really well and doing well in general.
Well, good.
Diane, you're amazing.
So why do you need a caregiver, Sarah? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good.
You don't have to say if you don't want to.
I'd rather not.
Okay. So it sounds like you're really trying hard with your mother, and it doesn't sound like it's working. Is that?
Yeah, and I feel like this is a very important point to make. I'm sorry about my appearance. I'm really sick right now.
No problem. You look fine.
Don't worry.
But
No, you're beautiful.
Yes, she is.
You are
Isn't she beautiful?
Yes.
But like I think about, like, I mean, I've pretty much been sick my whole life, and I'm an only child, so and I think about it, and I'm like, I didn't ask her to take care of me. She didn't have to do this, but it seems like she's angry at me for it.
Wow.
And
Resentment,
major. And my father and I have such a close bond, and she's jealous of that bond. And
a lot of things going on there.
I think that this is a very important thing for people to understand, of coming from someone who's needed help, that she's at the point where she won't help me. It's only my dad now. She says, I've taken my life back.
So she's withdrawn her
completely.
Care.
Yeah.
Don't take it personal, Sarah. Number one.
No.
Well, I'm on my own now. Like I'm, but I still sometimes need her.
Yeah.
But there is that mother-daughter bond that you did talk about. That and Diane, I sit here and I look at you, taking care of your husband, and he didn't come out of your womb.
Right. I chose him.
She birthed me. It's like, come on.
No, well, my mother resented me a great deal. If it weren't for me, she would have done so many things. She really was a woman who shouldn't have had children. But that was something that happened when I was a kid. Guys came home from the war, couples got married, had kids. So that fit the stereotype of that time. Or
it's a girl instead of a boy.
Or it's a girl instead, exactly. There's the resentment that I kept her from having this brilliant career, and she became a career woman. So I don't know what she was so bitter about. But I looked like my father's side of the family instead of like her side of the family, and I had a good relationship with my father. That's also a big piece of resentment.
But I really think there is something to say about that mother and daughter relationship, how instrumental that is and how important that is, especially when in caregiving, and when talking about this. I don't care what it is, what in any type of caregiving. I think as daughters, we need our mothers in a way that is indescribable, and I think mothers feel this obligation, and I hate saying this, and this may come off wrong, but I think mothers, they feel this, I can't stand this, I hate this kid is driving me crazy, but I gotta take care of her. Where's the wine, And it's like, literally, it's all over Facebook. Like, where's my wine? Give me my wine. It's at
Okay, so she's not going to win any Mother of the Year contests. I think we can safely say that.
No, but I think I think that's what a lot of. I mean, I'm a mother, and I have a child, and I think that what
I
it's
bet you're not going to do this.
What?
I bet you're not going to do this.
No.
Okay. Learning experience. Okay.
But I think it's just important. It's just something that I don't know. I think it's sad, and it's something, you know, I look at Diane that's given so much of herself to her husband, and you know, a lot of us people that, you know, are flesh and blood.
Yeah, so it sounds like you really have a bad image of a caregiver because of your mother. Not all caregivers are like that.
I took care of my grandma as she was dying. Yeah, I mean, I'm a good caregiver.
Yourself as the role model, you know, that's what caregivers are supposed to be. If you listen to this show a lot, you'll hear wonderful stories about caregivers. My wife had a stroke 20 years ago. She lost her speech. She's paralyzed on her right side. So I've been taking care of her for 20 years, and we have a wonderful relationship, wonderful, loving relationship. You know, we're as in love, if not more, today than when we first met. So, I mean, this is the story. Okay. Now, yes, every now and then there's a situation where caregivers are burned out and they're resentful and they're maybe mean and cruel, or say things they don't mean, say things they shouldn't say. And with caregiving, let me know if I'm right, Adrienne. You can't. You have to have thick skin. You can't be too sensitive, and you can't take things too personal, because either the caregiver or the care receiver may not be in a very good place.
And I believe at that time, you need to just let things be, not react, and when things have calmed down, try and address the issue. Because I know with my mother, if I took the bait when she was looking for an argument, we could really be going at it. But if I just let her be right, whatever you say, that's okay, you know, then the time would come when we could have a conversation about, look, when you did this, I felt this, you know, and my feelings were hurt. Or
using I statements.
Right.
No, it's
because
a good point, Adrienne.
It's hard to stay in that moment, though, because it's so easy to take that bait.
Yeah. So, Diane, let me get back to you about Parkinson's disease psychosis in terms of managing it day to day. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. You're a blessing.
Love you,
Thank you, Sarah.
Bless
Keep
your
listening.
hearts.
Bye-bye. In terms of managing it day to day, tell us about these treatments, these cutting edge medications that the doctor was talking about. Do they really work? Is it really better?
The ones he's on are not exactly cutting edge. They're old antipsychotics, Seroquel and clozapine. I think they numb it a little bit. You know, they reduce it a little. The cutting edge one he's talking about is pimavanserin, which is in the final FDA approval stage. So we're just waiting for that.
So you're not allowed to use them until they get approved or something?
No, I guess this month the FDA is having hearings for it.
Okay.
So, I really wish he had been in the trial, but he wasn't.
So what
I was going to ask if there were Parkinson. I was asking if there were Parkinson's trials for the drugs. Yeah. And then with cancer medications, they were always coming up with trials.
Yeah, and we're on a list where we get sent trial suggestions. And but most of them are for earlier stages.
Mm-hmm.
So the medication is helping. Like if he wasn't on any medication, it would be like 80% hallucinations instead of 40.
Probably, yeah.
Well,
or they
that's
would
a big
be
improvement.
impossible to kind of, I don't know, to bring them down.
Well, I can't believe we run out of time with all these technical difficulties. In the last few minutes of the show, what pearls of wisdom can you leave our caregivers and our grievers that they can immediately implement, not only for the psychosis, but caregivers in general going through what we go through?
Well, I like what Adrienne said about not taking it personally. That's really important. You know, when you hear something that is so annoying, just don't take it personally and have a sense of humor. That's, to me, that's the biggie. Yeah. When he had seen the black cats, we then decided to go out and get a couple of black cats. So we have these lovely black cats. So animals are such a beautiful.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Just anything that can help you feel better.
And Adrienne, tell us how we can get a hold of you and your wonderful support team.
Well, you can reach me at thecaregiverspace.org, and it's Adrienne at thecaregiverspace.org.
ADRIENNE.
ENNE.
Okay.
And
don't forget the Caregiver Space.
Don't forget the. Thank you. And check out the website and check out the Facebook page. And you can go to the website and not be a member. It's free, and you'll find a lot of help there.
142,000 and change people cannot be wrong, folks.
Right.
And my website where you can hear the show and everything else on there is caregiverscaregiver.com. Caregiverscaregiver.com. Thank you again, and we will see you all next week. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.